All right, so welcome you guys. I'm so glad that you guys could all be on the call. This, as you know, is the last webinar of our 2024 Jacobs Teen Innovation Challenge. We're really happy that you guys are here with us. And this is the pitch phase. So this is after everything else has, wherever stage you're at, that's great. But if you always need a reference back to this, this is great for the end before the submissions are due. So Annie, I'm going to turn it to you for our intro slides.
Yes, so hello everyone. My name is Annie Avalos. I'm the Social Innovation Specialist here, and this is our wonderful team. We have Perla Myers, who is on this call today. She is our Executive Director. We have Lisa Dolly, our Senior Innovation Fellow and the co-inventor of Pactful. She is unable to make it, but she sends her greetings. And then Rebecca, you already introduced yourself. And then we also have Derek, who is our engineering consultant, who is also not able to make it. But we are excited to bring you this last webinar and kick off the last phase of the challenge. Now, I'm sure most of you are already familiar with this timeline by now, but one last time, the date to remember is April 30th, which is the date that video pitches are going to be due. We know that this date is coming up very soon, which is in 2 weeks, but we do want to reassure you that whatever point in the process you are with your team, it's definitely not too late. In the past, we've had teams do the whole process in 1 week, so it's definitely possible and it can be done. We'll continue to be available via email to answer any questions you may have up until the submission deadline. And also remember that you can always watch recordings of the webinars that are available on our website underneath the timeline section. And that also includes all of the slides as well as previous recordings of previous years. And this year, we're excited to announce that we will be hosting the award ceremony via an Eventbrite. So it's going to be very similar to the webinars, but instead of a webinar, it'll be the award ceremony where we will announce all of the winners. That will take place May 24th. And I will be dropping the link here in the chat. I will also be sending an email with all of this information. So if you don't get a chance to register right now, or if you want to share the link with parents, anyone that may want to attend and watch the award ceremony, you may do so. And then just as one last reminder to go over the prizes, here are all of the lovely prizes we will be awarding during the ceremony. And then we also will be awarding the Photonics Innovation Award that will be sponsored by DRS Daylight Solutions. So once again, if any of your students created any innovation that has to do with photonics, they will be eligible to receive this award. And then I'll pass it back to you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Annie. And just to keep in mind, when you go in and we'll show you the form, you're going to select which oh, no, I'm wrong about that. Sorry, I thought something and I take it back. Anyways, just think about with your students kind of as you're going through, is there one award that you're, one category that you're more aligned with? Because that can also affect maybe how you're pitching it, right? Or what the emphasis is for you guys. So we'll award one person in every category. Okay, so we wanted to give an opportunity just to kind of check in. I know that I just asked a few of you kind of how things are going, but I do want to give us a chance to have just an opportunity to kind of get a feel. So I am going to do a poll, a Zoom poll. And last time, our last webinar was our prototyping webinar, right? On designing and building your solution and testing it with others. But we want to get a sense for how it's going. So I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to put a poll and feel free to answer any and all questions on here, and then we will go over it. Let me know if you don't see it. So you can also put in the chat or just let me know. You could unmute yourself and just let us know, how has the prototype phase been? Was it a smooth process? I know most of you or all of those on this call right now are kind of already at the prototype phase, which is great. Getting feedback from potential users. And I see Pactful curriculum activities and the webinars have been helpful. That's great. Okay, so we're kind of in similar places. Some have gathered feedback already. Some still need to gather feedback. Is there anything anyone wants to say about any of these questions, things that have come up for you and your team? No? Okay, great. One thing that I wanted to mention is just that when you're talking about the phases, right, all of the different phases, when we are looking at our winners, we do heavily look to see if you have submitted all of the phases in Pactful. It doesn't mean that it is an absolute requirement, but it does, it is something that we really value, and we want to see that our winners are using the full Pactful curriculum, right? So we want to make sure that your students have gone in and been able to do that for all of the phases and have them checked off. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we wanted to just do a really quick check-in. We've been trying at Pactful to implement a little bit more of mental wellness into our activities. I'm realizing that I may not have stopped the poll. Great. Go back. Okay, so we wanted to do this quick activity just to give you a sense of something you could also do with your students. We know that, you know, this is not something that's always easy for students to make mistakes, to have to feel confident in what they're doing and try again. So I wanted to invite us who are in the room now, and if you're watching later, just think about it for yourself. Look at this chart, kind of the different words of affirmation, different strengths that people have. And I want to encourage you to just put in the chat or say out loud, what's a strength that you are proud of when you look at this list, or one that comes to mind that's not here? What do you feel is a strength for you that you are proud of? And feel free to put that in the chat or just say it out loud. Some teamwork.
Oh,
Mhm.
sorry, just see it.
Yeah, do you want to say anything, Tom?
Yeah, I just see kindness. I didn't see it when I was looking, and that is the single most important trait to me in a human being. And so I was looking, my vision's not so good, but now I see it right there on humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what jumps to you as the most important. I agree. Absolutely. Kindness, teamwork, love of learning. Absolutely. Annie, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with kindness, and also humanity, because at the end of the day, that's a huge component of why we innovate and do social good, because we want to have compassion for those in different situations.
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you guys so much for sharing. I would add in along kindness, I would say love for me, definitely, and honesty, like being my authentic self, I think is a strength that I try to bring every day. And I want to invite you guys to think about how you could share this with your students. So we brought this activity as an idea of really showing them to build confidence, right? To be a strengths forward place and space for our students. There's a lot of self-criticism that happens in our society, but when we're doing Pactful, we don't want to get lost in that, right? So one way that you could do this with your team of students and help them build their strengths and celebrate their strengths with each other is you could have them do a little activity where they say, you know, from working with Annie in a team setting, what strengths do you see in Annie? And have someone else answer that. Or I could say, from working with Annie in a team setting, the strengths that I see is kindness and gratitude, right? When I work with Annie, there's always this sense of, you know, we're really grateful for what we're doing and for each other. So we could kind of go around and see what each student would say about each other to build that community and build that dynamic in your team now, or maybe even after Packable, right? Do you guys have any thoughts on that or want to add anything to that? I know youth are at a time where they often are not actually giving each other strengths-based ideas. So to build that up with youth especially, I think is really, really important. So just to think about carrying this possibly into your classroom as you're going through the pitch phase, and everyone's going to have different ideas and different comments, always coming back to our positive and maybe thinking about how we each bring something amazing to our group, right? So Annie, can you tell us a little bit more about where we're at right now?
Yes, so now we're moving into the very last phase of design thinking called the pitch phase, which essentially is the culmination of all the work, research, and exploration that your students have been putting into the projects. In the next couple of slides, we'll walk you through the activities within pitch phase and how to assist students in putting together their final presentation and getting ready for submission on April 30th.
Amazing, thank you. So we have this next phase, our pitch phase, telling the story of your solution, convincing others that your solution can better the world, right? So pitching, what do we mean when we say pitching, right? We mean pitching means telling the story of your solution, convincing others that your solution can better the world. When students are able to show the why behind their project, why are they doing this? Why is this important to them? They can capture a really important aspect of their story. So I'm going to play a little video for you guys from the Packable curriculum. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Meet Mel.
Oh, of course.
Revolutionary way to stop food from becoming
Sorry.
meat. Now that you have a prototype of your solution, it's time to pitch it to others. A pitch is a presentation that tells people the story of the problem you are solving and persuades them to believe in your team and your idea. To create a pitch, your team will need to craft a story of how and why you came up with your solution. You'll want to draw people in and create an emotional connection so they understand the impact your solution will make on others and the world. You'll also want to capture their minds by explaining why your solution is valuable and convince them that your solution has the potential to change the world. You'll create an appealing pitch deck and use media to support your story. Once you have completed your deck, you'll share your story in a pitch presentation. You've built something that makes the world better. Be proud of your innovation.
So when we're creating our pitches, just a little tip.
Welcome to
As you
Firefly
just-
Health by Elizabeth, Malia, and Miranda.
Sorry.
Today,
Sorry. Okay, so as you're going through your pitches, one little tip to keep in mind is that video showed, you create a little slide deck, right, of what you guys created, where the idea came from, what the problem is, what the solution is. And we'll drop in here the link. It goes to a Google sign-in, and then you have access to the slide deck. When you're creating your slide deck, really try and make it personal to you guys, right? So our students, we want them to be creative and not just use the template we give, right? It is not a set in stone that you need to use our template. We definitely want our students to, go out and create something that they think fits the best for their prototype and their project. So just wanted to point that out, that it's not a requirement to use the exact template. It's just a guide. So we're really making the connection here between the problem and the solution, right? To help create that narrative for the pitch. And overall, your students are selling their idea, right? They're convincing their audience to believe in their solution and that it can make a difference for the betterment of this world. Keep in mind that, this is connected to the Sustainable Development Goals, right? So we're thinking about how do we make a product that is going to really have a really large impact and be able to have a global level. Even if you have a local project, how does that local project connect to a greater ability to impact a global need, right? So when you're in the teacher portal and you're looking at the activities, we have two, right? We have the pitch phase, we have craft it, and we have share it. So there's a lot of activities in these to engage with your students during the pitch phase. We recommend in general that students complete between 3 to 5 of those activities, but of course it's at the discretion of you guys, the educators, to decide what works for your team. So in the craft it category, you'll find the first 5 activities to help students craft their story, which includes creating an outline of their story, creating a solution slogan, and it walks you through how to do that, creating a solution name, creating a competitor matrix where students research similar products to their own solution, and finally creating a value proposition statement by comparing features versus benefits of their solution. So really getting them to craft what they want to say, kind of getting some brainstorming out there. All of the activities provide templates and fill in the blank statements to support your students to do these activities. And these are the kind of activities, right, that you would upload. As an example, you could upload the solution name document for your educator to approve or write feedback back to them. The final 2 activities focus on ways student teams can share their stories, right? So we have create your presentation, which provides students with tips and pointers to help them create the slide deck, which again, please personalize that deck as much as they want. There's a slide deck template to use for their pitch. And then in the last one, the pitch event, the pitch rubric is introduced along with a lot of reminders to students leading up to the pitch itself, which we'll go over in the next slide. So just keep in mind, you know, that rubric we're going to go over next. All of these things we recommend doing, you know, 3 to 5. But no matter what, you want to go through with your students how to create a presentation and actually, you know, practice what are we going to do for our pitch. So Annie, can you tell us some tips and takeaways from past experiences?
Yes, definitely. So some of the best pitches show a student's personal connection to the problem. So whether it's through a family member impacted by the problem or by another direct connection, I strongly advise you to mention that in their pitch presentations or at least highlight that somewhere. And also another thing is the energy of the students in their presentation matters very much. So you might want to coach and support your students in really working on transmitting that enthusiasm through their pitch because that carries a lot of weight and can go a very long way.
Thanks, Annie. And anytime, feel free to add any thoughts if anyone wants to put in the chat or say anything. Okay, so here's our handy dandy rubric that we use when we are looking through all of the submissions. So we have 5 sections where groups will be graded, and I'll just show you kind of an overview of our document. So on the website, on our Packful app, you'll see a link, as we said, inside the pitch section where you can see the rubric. It's also on the 2024 page of the Packful website as well at the bottom. So we have our pitch rubric. We have categories, the problem, what is the problem, the persuasion, drawing us into the story, explain how solutions address disparities, highlight how solutions stand out from competitors, the slides, using graphics and incorporating a unique tone, using correct grammar, the prototype, of course, effectively explaining what it is, how it works, the functionality, constructing an innovative prototype. We just wanted to highlight the idea of what does it mean to be an innovative prototype, right? And that means that it's something that's new and it's better than existing solutions, right? Maybe there's already something that's out there, but this one is providing something that is completely created fresh. Maybe nothing is, right, completely new, but something that is an idea that you've come out with together and that is actually bettering whatever the current solution is. And also really important that you guys have done data collection, that you've done feedback, that you've gotten feedback, that you've come back and you've said, okay, we know this didn't work, and now we are reiterating, maybe they did their prototype once, twice, a few times, right? And they've modified or made their solution better based on that feedback, based on input from potential users, which could mean different things depending on that solution, right? What did I want to say? Make sure, again, that you gather feedback from your user and that we're able to see that in the pitch video, right? That's important that we are able to see that you actually were able to do that. The grading scale, and finally, we have the presentation, right? You deliver the pitch clearly, you demonstrate knowledge and expertise of the content, and it's organized, right? So you want to really flesh this out with your students. It's a great opportunity for high schoolers to learn how they get their point across of what they think is really important and what they think that others should join in on. So you'll see that we do it on a scale of 1 to 3, where the lowest score 1 is given for content that really needs quite a bit more work, a 2 for content that meets the criteria, but could be stronger, and 3 for work that really shows full completion and implementation of the assignment, or really exceeds the expectations, right? So that's how our rubric and kind of grading works. I wanted to point out just a few tips and things to note here as you're going through. One is that we want to remind you again that this is related to the Sustainable Development Goals, right? Our impactful curriculum and our goal to make the world better. So just a reminder to align with one of those 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Like, don't make up one that's not already there. We want to see that it's connecting to this United Nations global effort. And also, again, if you have a project that is more locally based, that's wonderful, and we encourage that. And that, it's still a global issue that you're looking at a really local level, and that's amazing, right? And at the same time with that, in addition to really having it be a focus and very concrete, this is an issue in our neighborhood, how do we then take that out, right? And see, okay, how does this relate to our global issue? Another thing which we've kind of said, but just to reiterate, winners need to have built or tried a prototype of their product, their service, or their policy, right? It does not need to be a physical product. If you guys are doing a policy or some application online, that's great. But we need to make sure that you have built a prototype for that and collected data, right? We want to see that you've collected data and gotten feedback from users and made changes. So we highly recommend having a prototype example and having your students take that next step from the idea to the execution of it, which I know everyone on this call has done, which is great. And once again, just to reiterate, if you haven't had all of your team members, had your team complete all of the phases, make sure that your team submits something through each of the phases. It will really up your chances of being potentially a winner of the challenge. So just a little bit of logistical information. Each registered educator can submit 1 recorded pitch and slide deck for every 6 student teams. What that means, said in a different way, is that if you have let's say 1 team, that's great, you make 1 submission, right? If you have 5 different teams that are working on different prototypes, you can only submit 1 submission, right? And we'll talk about in a little bit, how do you, make that decision? But for every 6 teams, you can submit 1 recorded pitch and slide deck. Every submission needs a recorded pitch and a slide deck. And then you'll see in this chart, if you have 7 to 12 teams, you can do 2 submissions. If you have 13 to 18 teams, 3 submissions, and so on. Pitch videos should be no more than 5 minutes. Encourage your team to figure out, really hone in and practice and say, what is it that is the biggest, most important points that we want to make, and also follow that rubric, right? Of what are those highlights that we want to make sure to cover. I think it really, really helps, just as a tip, to really practice a lot, right? Practice writing out all of the bullet points that you're going to say. It doesn't need to be a full script, but it's a great way to get your students to work on public speaking too, right? Submissions are made through a Google form. Annie will put this in the chat. I'm going to show you it in a second. We use the Pactful Pitch rubric to evaluate the pitches for the prizes, and the winners will be announced. I may need to check on that date, but they will be announced on our Eventbrite. So I apologize, I changed that on this slide for when we upload it. But the winners will be announced on our May 24th Zoom event, which will be great. We're very excited about that, which is part of the World Design Capital, looking for innovation across different cities. And this year it's in San Diego and Tijuana. And so we're going to be part of that global event, as Annie mentioned earlier. But we will notify the winning educators before that. And I wanted to just make sure that you guys note, I'm going to give you a little look at our submission form. So when you submit, again, up to 6 teams, you can only submit one time, but if you have more than 6 teams, you'll be able to submit multiple on this same form. Just as a reminder, all submissions must be in English. If you decide, if your team is from another country and it's in another language, we just ask that you include closed captions. So that's the caveat, right? All submissions must be in English, or if in another language, include closed captions, because otherwise we can't really equitably judge all of the submissions, right? So again, the submissions are due April 30th. Get that in your head, April 30th, end of the day. You'll put your information, how students completed the challenge, how many student teams completed your challenge. This tells us how many times you will submit. Again, about having completed all of the phases, how many teams are submitting. This is a question in terms of are you a Title I school? Do any of your students live below the poverty line? This is just an internal question for us to gather some more data and understand who we're serving, right? And who we're reaching. If you don't have any teams, you can give us some information for why. That's also really helpful. At the end of the day, we want Pactful to be something that everyone feels is really easily accessible, and something that, we always want your feedback on. We want Pactful to be something that can reach everyone, right? And getting your feedback is always helpful. But if you weren't able to do it, we'd love to know why, to submit something. And then your team will submit their project name, their project description, their team name, always a fun thing. And also influences, right? What does your team want to represent in their team name? Description of the student team, how many students are on your team, which global goal you will be submitting. So you pick one. And really, really important reminder, when you are submitting a video or a slide, and when you are submitting your slide deck, they must be public. So you really want to make sure that, and I've put some instructions here on how to do that, but you need to make sure that your URL is public. If it's on YouTube or it's a Google Drive video, whatever it is, that when you share it, you make it anyone can view, right? That's the biggest thing. Anyone can view what you're watching, what we're watching. Otherwise, we won't be able to open it. And immediate release. So, and then it just goes on for more submissions, right? If you have more submissions to give. Any questions on that from those in the room? Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah.
If we have multiple teams, but we don't fit into one of the categories, should we focus only on the team that is being submitted, or are all the teams still looked at? That makes sense.
In terms of the SDGs?
Yes, in terms of all the tasks that we did on the platform for all the teams.
Oh, I see. You just want to make sure whichever team is the one that you guys decide to submit, that's the one that we're going to be looking at.
Okay. And you want to look at the other teams, is that right?
I mean, not in terms of submissions, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Which gets me into the next point. Also, if you want to watch past videos, and Annie, maybe you can put this in the chat from last year's page. So on the pactful.org site, you can look at past year's winners, right? And look at their videos and their submissions and get some ideas of what did they do? How did it look? What are tips that you could show those with your students, have your students watch those and discuss what they notice and can pick out of it, and use as pointers for that when they make their pitches, when they make their videos. So that's a really helpful way to work on those videos as well. Okay, so this kind of gets to what Jeremy was just talking about. You know, how do you decide, right? When you have multiple teams that have done this amazing process, and you need to narrow it down, right? So narrowing the number of teams, you can host an in-class or online pitch event, right? You could get your every team to do a draft, right? Little pitch to the whole group. And it's a great chance for everyone to give feedback to each other and practice that, even if they're not the winning team. Use the Pactful rubric as your guide. Ask students, again, to evaluate other teams. It's a really good way for especially our youth to learn to also offer and receive feedback, right? And offer and receive it in a way where we're really listening to each other and building up our strengths, like we were talking about earlier. And then your teams could rank each other according to different evaluations that you set for them. You know, I would suggest having it look, instead of having it be, oh, we didn't win, we didn't shoot, we weren't chosen, right? Think about it more as we are, as a class or as an entire, you know, couple classes, deciding which team we're really going to back up, and we're going to all become part of that, right? Even though we're not the submission, we're helping and supporting that team, and that makes us part of it too. So it's not that it's one or the other, it's that we're supporting that team and we're part of that decision. So after you've selected your winning team, students can fine-tune their pitch, of course, submit their video for you to include in the submission form. As you gear up for your virtual classroom pitches, remember to use the rubric, have students upload their presentation files into Pactful, and use a video conferencing platform if you're going to do it, you know, on Zoom or virtual. For videos, when the students are making their videos, they could use all different kinds of programs. They could use Screencast, Zoom, iMovie, WeVideo, whatever works for them. And just, again, make sure that it's public, because otherwise we won't be able to see it when you submit it. And make sure that they're in compliance with your school policy. Okay, Annie, any questions up to there? Great. Okay, Annie, can you give us a little more information about pitch submissions?
Yeah, so just a few reminders. It's important to note that students should only use their first names in their videos. If your teams choose to share other images or videos of themselves for the pitch, make sure you also have photo consent from your school. If not, they can also be included just as a narration or voiceover. Some other privacy guidelines I'd like to go over are to make sure to check your local school policy for media releases and public sharing. Also check if your students' names can be publicly displayed, and also check to see if your students have consent or have given consent. These guidelines may vary from school or district, so just make sure to double check that with your administrators. And if the student can't be filmed or photographed, they may do a voiceover or narration only. The pitch video and slide deck videos can also be in multiple different platforms. As long as they're public, such as Zoom, iMovie, WeVideo, YouTube, etc.
Great, thank you, Annie. And again, we're going to be announcing May 24th at our virtual event. So I really hope that you guys are able to come. We'd love to have everyone join. You know, we're not going to reveal to the students who has won until that moment. So we really encourage every group to join. Again, even if they're not the winners, they still completed this amazing design thinking process together, and we want to celebrate everybody who went through it, right? So we'd love to see everyone at that event. And just so you know, after winners are selected, if you choose to donate to a charity, we'll connect with the educator about the prize. Okay, so we just wanted to let you know we have a new server on Discord just for educators in our community. We encourage you guys to just introduce yourself on that. It is a simple, you know, sign up with your email and you'll automatically get invited through this link, or and you can put a link in the chat that will also work. And you just go in there and you introduce yourself, and I'll show you what it looks like. Exit out of here. Okay, so this is our Pact-Full educator community. We post the webinars. We, in general, as you know, Pact-Full is a curriculum that's available any time of year. The challenge is specific to now, but you can make announcements. You can make a chat. We have our webinars in here. You could ask previous teachers who are also in here a question, or us if you have a question about content, or hey, our students are doing this, what do you think? So this is just a space for all of our educators to connect. So I encourage you guys to sign into that if you're able to. If you've never used Discord before, it's really fun. It's a platform that is used a lot by gamers and people who want to speak on video or on audio, or share a link, or, you know, just have really easy access to communicate with each other. So I hope you guys can join us in that platform. And now we just have question answered. Annie, if you can put that Discord link in the chat, that would be great.